Donald Trump has set Saturday as a deadline, Saturday noon, for all remaining Israeli hostages to be released by Hamas. The US president says the Gaza ceasefire should be cancelled if they're not returned, warning all hell is going to break loose. Hamas officials have hit back at Trump, saying that his threatening language only complicates matter. Let's speak with Hannah Weisfeld, who's the executive director and founder of Yachad, the British Jewish organisation. Hannah, good afternoon to you. Nice to have you with us. Your reaction, firstly, to Donald Trump's words, because they were very firm words.
Well, I mean, it's really unclear what his threat is. Nobody can tell me what all hell will break loose means. And I think that given that the ceasefire is hanging in the balance and people are literally begging for the lives of their loved ones to be saved, for the hostages to come home, for Palestinians to be safe in Gaza, very extreme threats when what we really need is careful diplomacy can only be unhelpful.
I thought it's interesting when I heard him say that. First of all, I thought, oh, yikes, I'm not sure that's necessarily the right language. And then exactly as you just said, I thought sort of overanalyzed it a bit. Thought, well, maybe, all hell could break loose. That could mean politically. It could mean, I don't know, something about sanctions in the... Who knows? It doesn't have to mean war, but that's certainly your go-to thought when a president makes that comment, particularly over this particular dispute.
Yeah, and I mean, there's very few options available, right? So you can go back to war. The Palestinian civilians of Gaza have returned all over the Gaza Strip. There is almost nothing left to bomb. And so going back to war would mean mass civilian casualty on an even greater scale than what we've already seen. There is not public support for that in Israel at all, far from it, in fact. You can block humanitarian aid into Gaza, which will mean starving millions of people. So at the moment, it seems to be that he's making a lot of threats that don't have very clear consequences. I think what's really important is that you take that threat alongside his new grand plan for Gaza, which is to transfer 2.5 million civilians out permanently, so the US can take over the Gaza Strip. He seems to be painting a very unsavory future for the Palestinian people, and one which they're never going to be prepared to accept. And when the ceasefire is on the brink of collapse, it seems deeply irresponsible to threaten something beyond the ceasefire, which nobody will ever accept. Because on what basis would you then continue the ceasefire? And
also, I mean, it's a reasonable question. So what is Trump's authority on this anyway? I mean, I appreciate that America are huge players on the global stage, and the American-Israeli alliance is about as connected, particularly now, as you can get. But ultimately, this isn't his battle.
It's certainly not his land. And when you hear him talk about this great piece of real estate, maybe he wants to go and build himself a golf course, on top of bombed out homes in Gaza. But Donald Trump in the United States has no legal right to occupy the territory of the Gaza Strip. And so if that is what he intends to do, and in order to do so, he needs to bend the arms of surrounding Arab countries to, against their will, take 2.5 million Palestinians who will refuse to leave their homes because they know that there is no chance that they're coming back. So then it will have to be violently removed. What kind of future is that? And what's the point of ending the war if that is what's going to happen at the end of it?
It's interesting. Sorry, do continue.
No, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, on that point of people leaving their homes and this idea that Jordan and others should be taking people in, as it were, the sort of tacit caveat to that is that, don't worry, people will go back to their homes. Now, I know there's some suspicion on that, but is there any reason why that couldn't happen? I think there's even something in the United Nations Big Book of Rules that says that could be something you could do.
There's plenty of things in the United Nations Big Book of Rules.
True.
The rules don't get followed, and so, if you think about the makeup of the people that have the power, first of all, Donald Trump doubled down yesterday on his position about the fact that it would be a permanent removal, and he said no, they won't be coming back. So he has not rolled back. They rolled back briefly, the White House spokespeople, on this idea that it was permanent. But you have in power in Israel today extremist ministers who, from the outset of the war, have made it clear that actually they would like the people of Gaza to leave, and they would like to resettle the Gaza Strip. These are not people that have the interests of either Israeli or civilian Palestinians. That they are hell-bent on a messianic idea that they can repopulate the greater land of historical Israel. And in order to do that, you need to resettle the Gaza Strip. And so no Palestinian is going to look at that government inside Israel today and say, well, they control the borders of Gaza. I've got the confidence that if I temporarily remove myself for 15 years to Jordan or Egypt or wherever, I will be allowed back in. The 2.5 million Palestinians that live in Gaza are refugees from previous wars in 1948 and 1967 who never returned to their homes. They are not going to leave again. And so what options are on the table other than forcibly removing them?
Do you sense, what is your gut on this then, Hannah, in terms of what Donald Trump probably meant by this? I mean, he is a man that shoots off the cuff and says some wild stuff, and like him or hate him, that is his style. It could just be I really don't mean any pun in this, a metaphoric rocket that he's firing into the debate. Could it be just that he's giving a warning shot saying, sort this out?
I think it's probably a mixture of all of those things. It's very hard to tell to what extent he takes his own ideas seriously. So does Donald Trump really believe that Jordan and Egypt are going to agree to take 2.5 million Palestinian refugees and that they will willingly leave their homes? I'm not sure. I don't know how much Donald Trump knows about the people of Gaza and the politics and the history. My suspicion is he feels that if he kind of comes in with this very big grandiose statement, it will force Saudi and other Arab countries to step up and take some kind of lead. But what everybody actually knows is what Trump really wants is a deal with Saudi Arabia. He wants a normalization deal with Saudi Arabia and Israel for the benefit of America, and the Saudis want that too. Now, my personal view is that you cannot square a circle in which you say we're going to have this normalization deal and there will be no future for the state of Palestine, because you have to remember that not only is he threatening that the US will take over the Gaza Strip, he said in his press conference the other day with Netanyahu that we're going to make a decision soon, not that America has the right to make this decision on whether we're going to allow Israel to annex the West Bank. Now, if Israel annexes the West Bank, the United States takes over the Gaza Strip, there is no land on which a future Palestinian state can be built because it's gone. It's gone to Israel and it's gone to America. You then have 7 million Palestinian people living between the river and the sea who have no future and have no prospects of equal political and civil rights, which is a tinderbox. Nobody is safe and secure in that reality. And so I don't think it is possible for Trump to get what he wants by just shouting, shouting from the rooftops that he will do X, Y, and Z if he doesn't get his outcome, because I don't think his outcome is possible.
I tend to agree. I don't think his outcome, I mean, certainly this Riviera stuff with bowling alleys and big hotels, casinos and goodness knows why. I don't imagine that for 1 second. Maybe some of his critics have said, well, it's opened up a debate into areas perhaps that weren't being discussed before. Hannah, listen, we have to leave it there for time, but thank you for your assistance on that. Hannah Weisfeld, she is Executive Director and founder of Yachad, a British Jewish organisation. Thank you to her. Thoughts on that? You might want to respond from the other side of that. I think, it would be fair to say that Hannah sort of bats not really from a very pro-Netanyahu position. If your view is different, we'll take it.